Hi, gang. This is Colin Flaherty. I fired up my podcast again. I mean, a lot of people just want to have something to listen to in the car or at the gym or something. So we're going to start doing a new, this is my third one since I fired it up. And it's kind of a best of. But I'm not going to post the whole thing here. I'm just going to post the first segment. Then I'm going to put a link here. You can see it right up there in the right-hand corner. That'll take you to YouTube, where you can see where you can listen to the entire podcast on YouTube over there. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because, this channel is kind of under, I don't really want to, belabor the point, but this channel is under constant attack from the trolls. And so this is going to be kind of our backup channel, the one you see the link to up there, that little circle with an eye on it. And so if you go over there and listen to the podcast, that'd be great. But if you're over there, would you do me a favor and just subscribe to that channel? I'm not going to put that much stuff up there. But again, I want that to be our backup in case, due to unforeseen circumstances, you come to this channel one day and it says, this channel YouTube has removed this channel because of terms of service violations. Anyway, let me know what you think. Hi, this is Colin Flaherty. I'm the author of Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. It seems like just a few minutes ago that Willie Shields and I, my co-host, we were talking about all this racial violence, black on white crime, black mob violence all over the country, and how there's so much denial, deceit, and delusion on the part of reporters and public officials. There's so much going on. And now it's a week later. Willie, there's even more happening this week than last week.
I got to tell you, Colin, it's great to be back here in the Colin Flaherty studios, by the way. But you know what? There's so much going on. It never stops. And it's just incredible, the denial that goes on with the media, how they cover this. It's, in one sense, it's laughable. In another sense, you almost want to cry. It's just horrible with the way the media handles this stuff.
Well, we're past crying, we're past sadness, we're past laughing. We're in full-on determination mode. We're determined to expose this. We're determined to show how there's so much going on, so much black criminality going on, wildly out of proportion, and how the reporters, public officials, and everybody else is denying it. Why don't we give people a little preview? Willie, you're going to go. What do we got? I'm really excited about this letter we got from a public defender. And the title he signed the letter, Public Defender No More. Willie, when I brought that letter to your attention, you must not have thought it was going to rock your world the way it did.
Oh, it definitely did. It's just an incredible indictment of what's going on in the country by somebody who's got an inside seat. He makes you like you're like a fly on a wall to some of this psychopathic behavior that this guy has witnessed over the years.
And then we're going to talk about a really bizarre case of black violence on a school bus. We're going to and how the school superintendent reacted to it in a really, really strange way. Then we have another story out of Harrisonburg, Virginia, where the reporters down there are trying to figure out why the cops are arresting so many black people. So, Willie, why don't we just get to it? Willie, we got this letter. Could we count on you to read the thing?
Yeah, I'd love to, Colin. I think the listeners will be very interested in hearing what this guy had to say. Okay, here we go. This is the greatest letter ever written to Colin Flaherty. It comes from a public defender. Colin, in my state, public defenders handle felony matters. Worst of the worst, my friend. Everything from drugs to homicide and everything in between. From law school to people that just passed the bar exam, you must be an experienced attorney with trial experience to be considered for these positions. They are coveted positions, and the competition for them is extreme. To illustrate my point, I found it shocking that so many big-name private attorneys who took felony cases didn't know what they were doing. they put on a big show. What did they do every time they get these cases and they need guidance? Well, they quietly, almost secretively, come to their regional state public defender's office and ask staff attorneys for help. It's a well-kept secret. Virtually all public defenders in my state are top criminal felony litigators. Money is no object if you get approved for a public defender. Polygraph experts, investigators, experts of all kind. And the pot of money for these derelicts never ends. No exaggeration. Virtually all of our clients were black men and black women, even in a county or region that was mostly white. The crimes were always involving a victim or firearms rather than simply drug crimes where the state is the listed victim. So I get assigned a client, a black female accused of aggravated assault and armed robbery. She's looking at a maximum of 15 years in state prison. She claims the white victim was the one that actually violated her. Somehow, she ends up with the victim's cell phone and valuables, and the victim is the one who ends up in the hospital. So she continually tells me the victim was a racist and didn't like black people. Somehow that justified assault and robbery. She demands a trial before a jury, and somehow I get the jury to come back with a not guilty on all charges. She doesn't even thank me. So I say, well, you can at least say thank you. I did put a lot of effort into this, and I kept you out of prison. Her response, quote, "You white motherfuckers don't deserve a thank you. What you need is a motherfucking ass beating." I responded by saying, "Have a great life." Then I get assigned a black male client. He's under arrest for armed robbery at a convenience store. I visit him in the county jail. He used a handgun and pistol whipped an Indian store owner and took all the cash after terrorizing him and beating him. His defense to this was, quote, "I ain't do nothing, white motherfuckers just need somebody to fuck with." I explained to him that I'm trying to help him and would do everything I could. He continued to deny his involvement. I said, "But the police grabbed you right down the street with a gun in your pants and the money in your pocket, and you had the same clothes on as in the video." Then I had him watch a very, very good quality surveillance video that clearly showed him during the entire extremely violent event. His response to me, quote, "That ain't me, and you motherfuckers are trying to railroad me." I tell him I'm on his side and I'm going to have trouble explaining away this video, the gun, the victim identification of him, and the money in his pockets. He says, quote, "All y'all crackers can go to hell." Real gratitude, huh? Nice to be appreciated. Enjoy your 20 years in state prison. Then the next assigned client is a black male in jail for homicide. He's accused of aggressively instigating an argument with a totally innocent teenager, comes back with a group, shoots and kills the kid. There is a co-conspirator testifying against him and tons of physical evidence. I meet him in jail and tell him I'm here to help. What are the first words out of his mouth? "Just what I need, another cracker." I go back to meet him later. Now I spend roughly $10,000 of taxpayers' money on investigators and experts. The state offers him a plea bargain of only 20 years when he should be looking at life in prison. He says, quote, "Fuck their flea bargain. It's just because I'm black and they don't like niggers." I say, "George, it isn't a flea bargain, it's a plea bargain, and your buddy is testifying against you, and there's tons of physical evidence. We've spent over 10 grand of taxpayers' money on experts, and we're all trying to help you." His response, he goes off the deep end yelling, quote, "Fuck the taxpayers, My motherfucking people were your fucking slaves. I tell him, George, my family didn't come to America until 1939, and we were poor and didn't have slaves. Then he tries to assault me. I say, adios, enjoy state prison. Then there's an assigned client who was charged with aggravated assault and attempted murder of an older white guy he was supposed to do yard work for. He didn't do much work at all and threatened the white homeowner anyway. So the white homeowner pays the full amount and pays the money in an envelope just to get rid of him. What does he do? He violently explodes and beats the older white man half to death, takes the money and leaves. I meet him in jail when I get copies of all the police reports and copies of the reports and evidence taken from him. I ask what happened. The client gets real angry and says, quote, that white motherfucker called me a monkey and wrote monkey on the envelope. I pull out the copies and show him that the envelope copy clearly had the word money written on it in big block letters, not monkey. His response, quote, fuck you white motherfuckers. I'm just here because I'm black. No remorse at all, just an expression that white people deserve to be beaten and everyone is a racist. I immediately walked out of the jail and gave the case to someone else. There are many, many more. All the themes to me as a public defender were the same. A black client using up taxpayer dollars. It was a violent crime, and they claimed everyone except them was a racist, including me. Their explosive brutality was shocking to most people, but I had seen it all before. And they all lacked any impulse or any control whatsoever, and they got in close to their victims and exploded violently on them so the victim couldn't react or defend themselves. When I say explosive violence, I mean explosive. It was the same exact script over and over, just the name of the client and the victim changed. If the victim was white, and they often were, somehow they deserved it, and they were the ones that were lying. They were not humans. They were just white motherfuckers or white crackers who had it coming. You couldn't reason with them. The thinking just wasn't there at all. It was just a huge pool of black men and women roaming the streets, looking for an opportunity to victimize someone, and the method was always violent brute force. Most of the old black people from these areas were as good as gold. No criminal history whatsoever. They were genuinely embarrassed and mortified. Something went haywire somewhere down the line. My wife would hear these stories and used to think it was safer for me doing this than being on the street in my last job. It didn't take long until she begged me to get out of it because I was going to get hurt or killed by one of these degenerates I was trying to help. I took her advice and never looked back after having to admit that it was like walking in an enclosure with wild tigers. Sooner or later, if you have enough contact with them, you're going to be a victim, even if you were the only one in the world trying to help them. These people saw their job as collecting welfare, free housing, utilities, and getting food stamps. Oh, I forgot, and brutally victimizing people for their own purposes, which I soon saw was not always financial. It was also clearly to violate non-blacks who were seen as easy prey. None of them worked, and most never, ever had a job. Several generations on welfare because, in their words, "Use people owes us." I heard that time and time again. If people in this country really knew the violent predators that are walking around in large numbers, that are looking to literally beat them to death for no reason at all, they would board themselves up in their homes and never come out. This is not an exaggeration. The liberal news won't tell you this. Your local politicians refuse to admit it or even say it. And the police are accused by both sides as being the problem. They get a blip in the paper or on TV about the crime, and that's it. They never get to see the autopsy or hospital pictures of the victims, the scars, or the bloody cloths. Well, my friend, someone else can help perpetrate this charade because I refuse to. Sure, I was upholding the law, but I couldn't look the victims in their eyes if they were still alive. Don't start me on criminal justice reform either. I'm going to have to leave that for another day. My dad is a real old school guy in his 70s, typical old type Italian. He's a Vietnam vet, and he did over 30-some years as a police officer. He got along great with blacks in our town, and they all respected him in the old days. He always treated everyone like they treated him. One time a black guy was complaining, and one of the old-time black guys says, "You know, if Chief Johnson gave you an ass-whooping, you must have deserved it." Then one day in the winter, there was this black family literally freezing in the winter with no food in the house, and they had kids. Pop gets them some food and some heating oil. And then 2 months later, while on a traffic stop, the same guy hits Pop, leaves him in the road for dead. Yep, the black guy he got food and oil for out of his own pocket. How's that for your welcome? Last week we talked about the topic, and he says, quote, "Son, the old days are gone. I'm just too tired of trying to find a needle in a haystack with these people. I'll just stay as far from them as I can and stay safe and keep what's mine." Signed, a public defender no more.
Willie, great job on reading that letter.